okay. Yes. Well, you've been done.
We would like to welcome all of you, and this is a special occasion. It's taken many years to reach, and we're so excited, and I'd like to thank everybody. There's so many people I won't even name any names because I might leave out a number so I don't hurt your feelings. We love you, and we're so grateful for all that you've done, the support, money-wise, as well as just giving us your support. And I'd like to turn the program over to Reverend McBrayer and the rest of the speakers. Again, I say welcome anytime. Anything we do for you, just give us a buzz.
Like some don't know this is the courtroom, so they're here them in the foyer. So good to welcome you. I join Peggy, our president, in saying welcome to this historic place, this historic event. I trust everyone has a program. If you don't, you raise your hand. We'll provide plenty of programs, and if you need extras to carry with you, we'll be very glad to provide extra copies. There's a lot of history behind this, over 100 years. And there's talking to Judge Wynn, and he looked back at the improvements and said he was pleasantly surprised to see what has been done. This has happened because of the cooperation of a lot of people. We'll be saying more about that later. But when Opal came, it kind of did a lot of damage to the tower and the building. It looked very dismal when we started a few years ago to repair and renovate and come to where we are today. Through the support of many people, we've come to this point. Especially today, we've met to dedicate this old courtroom and the new addition and elevator in honor of the late James R. Murphy. The inspiration for this came both from my impressions and the imprints that he made on me as a young lad, as well as hearing Honorable Tom Murphy talk about his experiences with his brother. When I can see his face now as I saw him as a young lad, in spite of his handicap, he was persistent. He gave himself to people, to humanity, and served our state and our community in several different ways. So we're met here because of the imprint that it had on my life, and I shared this with the executive committee of the Historic Society and the entire membership. We voted unanimously to dedicate this little courtroom and other facility in honor of the late James Murphy. Looking at the program, Judge Harold Murphy will be coming to give a tribute to the late James R. Murphy. And then Honorable Senator Nathan Dean will come and share with us, and Honorable Thomas B. Murphy, and then other family members will follow as they would like after these come forward. We're especially glad today to have a number of special guests. And like Peggy, I always miss somebody, and I miss some on the program. Nonetheless, we want to especially mention Judge Wynn. So good to have Judge Wynn. Would you take a bow, Judge? It's so good to have you with us today. Judge Mark Murphy, the juvenile judge, and his fine wife. Judge Mike Murphy and his wife. The sheriff running. Yes, we'll come back there. I don't miss you there, Sheriff. The Sheriff has really been supportive. He's allowed to use the detained citizens. He's allowed us to use them a great deal in this courthouse. A lot of free labor, and we deeply appreciate his support. I don't think we can make it without it, Sheriff, and we deeply appreciate what you have done and your staff. You got support. Now back to the pointing out. Yeah, Harold's coming in just a moment. We have this today our probate judge, James Rutherford. So good to have you with us. We have other elected officials with us. Senator Dean will be coming on the program in just a little while. Judge Harold Murphy is coming now to share with us, and after he shares his remarks, we'll follow order, and Harold will lead us in the dedication after his
James Murphy lived for 46 years. He was born in 1920 and he passed away in 1966. I remember James Murphy for most of my life. He was born to Uncle Bill and Aunt Lita, Bill Murphy, Lita Jones. He had two older brothers, Gene and now that I didn't make enough of anything, Earl. And then as time passed, there was a fourth brother, and that was George B. I remember that James went to law school at the University of Georgia. Passed the bar, came to Buchanan and started practicing law with Judge Price Edwards. Remember when I was in the 7th grade here in Buchanan and in high school, I would see James walk across from the office to the courthouse here. In his very earliest days as a practicing lawyer, he was well known to be a highly competent young man. I've heard people speak about him even before I was out of high school about what a fine lawyer he was and what sound advice he gave. He was admitted to the bar in the early 40s. He served in the state legislature in 1945 and 46 while Ellis Arnold was governor. He was an important supporter of the programs of Ellis Arnold, who was one of our more progressive governors. Then he served for 2 more years while M.E. Thompson was governor of Georgia, 47 and 48. Later, he served as mayor of Bremen. He served as city attorney for Bremen. He served as county attorney for this county. He served as counsel for many important entities in the county. And he tried some very, very important cases in this court. I can see him now in the courtroom. He was handicapped. As time passed, he did not walk across the county office building to the courthouse anymore. Arthritis disabled him, so that he later became confined to a wheelchair and crutches. And he would ride to court with Tom, with a wheelchair strapped to the top of the car. Then he would laboriously come and mount these steps in the front, with Tom walking, standing behind him. He'd back up the steps in his crutches, with Tom behind him, so that he failed to catch him. Then he would come to the stairway here at the courthouse. laboriously back up those steps to get to the courtroom. And Tom, his brother, would drag that wheelchair up here this morning. And they tried case after case, case after case. The worst problem they had was that they had me on the other side a lot of times. Judge Wynn was practicing law back then. Had him on the other side a lot of times. When that happened, James and Tom didn't have as good a day as otherwise would have. But he gets the last chance, so I'll be careful. I just want to say, James Murphy was a magnificent lawyer, a great lawyer. I've heard his brother Tom say that he's the smartest man he ever knew. I wouldn't say he's the smartest man I ever knew, because I don't know how to identify the smartest man that I ever knew. But he was one of the most brilliant men that I ever knew, one of the most able and brilliant lawyers that I ever knew, possessed of a good personality, and most importantly, he was thoroughly honest, reliable, possessed of great judgment, and determined to be the best professional man and best citizen he could be. You will seldom ever see in your lifetime any person more determined and more dedicated to be his own man and not let any handicap deter him from the dreams and purposes of his life than James R. Murphy. So really, I'm privileged several ways to be here today. I'm privileged to get to speak about James, say something about James in the presence of his family. I'm also privileged to have been a relative. I've admired all his career, and as the years have passed, I've admired him even more. And as the years have passed, admired the loyalty that Thomas B. Murphy had to his brother. Thank you again for the opportunity to participate in this program.
Senator Nathan Dean will be coming. We appreciate Senator Dean. Now, let's give him a hand.
Mr. Speaker, dear family, and to each judge that is here. You know, I can't begin to tell you, Mike, Mr. Speaker, how pleased I am to be with you, to celebrate in the memory of James R. Murphy the dedication of this courtroom, and an elevator that I know he is looking at with some amazement and maybe some humor on this occasion. As a member of the General Assembly, but more important, as a citizen of this community, I share in your excitement because we know that this courtroom is a center of this county and an integral part of our history and our tradition. In 1882, this courthouse was finished at a cost of $20,000. And open to conduct the legal and civic business of this community. It served us well for almost 100 years. In 1971, Mr. Speaker, Thomas B. Murphy, who we all know and respect, tried the last case in what has come to be known as the old Haralson County Courthouse. Since then, the building has seen a tremendous amount of activity, including a meeting place for all of our civic organizations. The Buchanan City Council, the Haralson County Historical Society. You know, I, like this structure very much because it's so meaningful of our past and a prelude to our future. The courthouse has experienced its share, perhaps more than its share, of wear and tear. But instead of letting the building fall into disarray and becoming unfit for use, this community petitioned for funds, almost $1 million, to perform cosmetic surgery and to upkeep and update electrical and plumbing facilities so that the members of this community and this county could continue to use the building, one that everyone here has loved and grown to love each more every day. And now, sure enough, progress. Not just a new courtroom, but an elevator. An elevator. It finally became our time. When I spoke with Ms. Kimball on several occasions, I could hear drills and all kinds of equipment in the background. So I have a word of thanks to say to those people who gave their time, their talents, and yes, even some of their money, and worked long hours to get this courthouse ready for us to be a part of and admire today. They embody the love and the honor that all citizens of Haralson County have for this building and its legacy to the community. To Dr. McBrayer and Ms. Kimball, members of the Haralson County Historical Society, you were devoted to this project, and I say thank you. I must also say thank you because the project could not have become a reality had it not been for Speaker Tom Murphy and his ability to bring home funds, to bring home the monies necessary to make it happen what we're witnessing today. I offer congratulations to everybody here. But you know, with all of that said, I am particularly pleased and especially proud to be a part of this elevator and courtroom honor in the memory of James R. Murphy. A long-time practicing county attorney, he loved this courthouse, and in spite of his inability to walk as you and I, he came in a wheelchair to practice a profession that he loved and he respected. On several occasions, Speaker Murphy would literally carry him up the stairs in his arms. What more can you say of Brother Wood? James R. Murphy lived his life doing what he loved, helping others in every way he could through the practice of law. Very intelligent, very articulate, and above all, a most caring individual, a man of passion for people, but especially for his profession. He was proud to be called a lawyer. He loved it, and he bought it by his deeds, his honor. There's a quote that I often say to myself that reminds me of what we can do if we just have faith in ourselves and others as he did. The world is so fast, there are days when the person who says it can't be done is interrupted by the noise and the labor of the person doing it. If that one person, such as James R. Murphy, can be an achiever by himself, ladies and gentlemen, just imagine what we can do for each other. St. Paul states it so beautifully, though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and have all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I can remove mountains and have not charity, I have nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor And though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profits me nothing. Charity suffered long on its account. Ladies and gentlemen, this is James.
If there are other, Judge Wynn would be very honored if you want to make a few comments before Tom Murphy comes. Judge Wynn, would you like to make a few comments? Judge Wynn, if you'd like to make a few comments, we've got a provision on the program for others to make tribute. And we appreciate you, honored by your coming.
It's hard for us to understand the life of a man like James Murphy. Those of us in court could see him, great fellow, smart lawyer, and as he began to be ravaged by this vicious type of arthritis, you can't imagine what he went through and what character he had to pursue his profession with this arthritis ravaging his body. You can't imagine the pain that he had and how he could pursue his law practice and come here in court and particularly put up with people like me and Harold and Don Howe and that group and compete well in his condition. One of the most remarkable accomplishments that you will ever hear of. A man who cannot get up the stairs, cannot walk, and yet will lean on his wheelchair to make a speech and make a point in court. I doubt you'll ever see one who accomplishes as much with that handicap. Pleasure for me to be here and remember James, a great man. Thank you.
Before Tom comes, I'd just like to make a few comments about the kind of support that we received from him and Senator Dean. And on the list here you have the former Governor Barnes and the Robert Woodruff Foundation. They gave us a very substantial donation. But one time, Senator Dean, I was after him about the appropriation, and I was trying to run him down, and I saw him at one of our festivals. He saw me coming, at least I think he did. Anybody died under the tent? I'm sure I'm trying to get away from it, but we hung in there. And I'll never forget an experience I had with Tom. I was over the legislature, and of course they had so many demands on them. It was very difficult to carve out what we needed. This particular session, they decided there wouldn't be any local assistance. So I was about to cry, and Tom got me around the shoulder and took me into his awesome office and consoled me. Told me that there's some hope for getting $50,000 or $100,000. As I recall, I said, "Tell me that when he get out of jail." So he helped us in that particular legislature. We got $450,000. And so the Lord helped us along with these good people. Tom is, the best thing I said about him is an honest man. He's a man of great character, and he was in a position if he had wanted to turned some money, no doubt he could have. I understand there's a lot of opportunities for that. But he was a man of absolute honesty, integrity. And we're honored to have him today to make whatever comments he'd like to make about the late James R. Murphy.
Thank you. It's not hard to talk about my brother James. He was, and regardless of what anybody else thought, he was the smartest human being I ever knew. I never in my life saw anybody that had the intelligence he did. Harold, excuse me, Judge, I'm supposed to call my cousin Judge. I ain't gonna call him son, Judge. I just have him. But Clarence Ron, who you knew very well, Superior Court Judge in Buchanan County, was the majority leader. Well, I don't know why they started one day around the budget conference committee. They started talking about they wanted each one to say who they thought the smartest man in there was. Great individuals that put together. Clarence was sitting two seats down. His name is. I was the last man since I was sitting at the head of the table. He said, "What about you, Mr. Murphy?" I said, "Oh, that's easy. As far as human being I can do in my life with my brother James Murphy, ain't no doubt in my mind about that." Clarence said, he said, "You know, you were right." He said, "He's the smartest human being I know." He said, "He and I used to study in law school together, and he's the smartest human being I know." He just had the brain power that I'd always wished I had and never could accumulate. He was an enigma of sorts. Though he was crippled, though he wasn't able to get about, I've seen him stop, see people on the street, take money out of his pocket and give him 50. Because they were so less fortunate that he considered himself. He was my idea of what a perfect human being should be. Never saw anybody suffer as many pain, as much pain as he did in my life. But you never heard him. You never heard him. He taught me just about everything I knew. When I was overseas in World War II, he was still practicing law and could play a little tennis. 2.5 nearly 3 years later, when I got back, he was in a wheelchair and on crutches. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Then, at least my family have not told me that. Father, I loved him with every fiber of my being. We had not only a wonderful relationship, partners, we were two brothers. One of us had 50 cents, the other had 50 cents. That's the way it was. And that's the way it ought to be with all of us. The truth. He was the smartest lawyer I ever knew. I'd ask him questions about things. He would never answer. He would never answer. He'd pointed to books on the wall and said, "The answer is up there, find it, and then you won't forget it." But then when I got out of the bank, didn't know where I was or how I got there, he'd find some way to get me back on course. Tell you the kind of guy he was. He was one of those folks who was smart enough that he passed the bar at the end of his junior year in law school. Already having so much trouble with arthritis that he just quit law school after he passed the bar, and Judge Edward took him in right straight. But when we started our partnership, because I was married, had one child, and another on the way. I'd lost enough time out there in the South Pacific. I didn't waste any time in raising a family until it's through. We tried, got 2 terms of court, and the end of the 2nd term of court, he sat at the table and probably was more responsible for the verdicts I got, but I tried 3 cases and won all 3 of them. On the way home, after that last verdict, after my father died, he called my son most of the time. He called me, well, son, I see you pull your share of the load. We just split 50-50 from Buchanan. That's the way the partnership works. We're very agreeing, 50-50. That's the kind of brother he was. That's the kind of fellow he was. I've seen him make speeches in this courtroom that absolutely chill your blood. Nobody could spellbound the jury any better than him. I think you agree with that, Judge. Nobody could spellbound the jury any better than he could. And very seldom would he have a note in his hand with all of you. Of course, if I'm conveying the impression to you that I love him, I'm trying my best to do that. He was special to me. He was special to my family. I'm going to get on one more little item and then I'm going to sit down. You know, I got back home and I had these 4 children. Before it was over with, before he died, I had 4 children. We had 4 children. And he get one of the Martha laying on the arm of his wheelchair and reading stories. Sitting there, get him up on his wheelchair, sitting on my bed and reading stories. And he got to where I think they really thought about more him than they did me, because they'd tell us they want something, and we'd say we can't afford it, and they'd say, that's all right, Uncle James will give it for us. And that's the way it was. He was a wonderful fellow. Didn't get, I guess, the greatest pleasure he got out of life was his nieces and nephews. He was a wonderful person. He was a wonderful lawyer. And again, I say, the smartest human being I've seen. And I appreciate y'all honoring the Murphy family. There have been some great lawyers, some great judges in this court. Judge Wynn, Judge Bud Foster, Judge Mundy, Judge Harold Murphy. Been through this courtroom, the name could have been just as well to them. I reckon that's one ambition that he and I held in the same way. Neither one of us ever wanted to be each other. Never one of us. We always figured we was happier where we could be an advocate and say what we wanted to and didn't care what somebody like us not. It was the truth. The judge can't do that. That was the city court. But I thank you, the committee and the people, for honoring my brother this honor here. And I sure do wish that elevator had been there when he was alive. It sure would have been easier on me and him. Thank you.
As other members of the family, we welcome other comments. If Matt and Mark, if they would like to make comments, we welcome you to do so.
I'll just make a brief remark or two. I can't hold the candle to what's already been said. First of all, Judge Harold Murphy, Judge Dan Wynn, and my father. I won't try to add to it. I hope I don't detract from what they've said. But as has been pointed out, there are a lot of fine attorneys and judges have been through this courtroom. And I wish Bill Foster was here. I think before we split the circuit, Bill said the last thing he wanted to do was hold court here where his daddy used to hold court. And so he got to hold a motion court here. while, I guess really, the memory when I'm an old fella, I have a lot, excuse me. I can do better than that. I have a lot to be thankful for. As all of us in this room can also say, I can remember coming to this courthouse when I was about the age of my great nephew. I came here all through the years. I used to run up down the road to John, see Johnny Terry, Bob Edwards' stepson. And I got to watch Judge Murphy, and my father and Mom James, Don had a lot of really good law. It used to scare me to death to think that I wanted to be a lawyer. Because there will never be lawyers of that caliber, just a different breed. And I say that with great respect. I've got Drew Lane, assistant DA here, John Wilson, our district attorney. We're fine lawyers. Let me just tell you, fellas, being honest with you, that generation, different kind of attorney. This was, I guess, when I'm much older, I hope I'll always see myself come in here just a little old kid, watching all these fabulous people practice law in this courthouse. I never dreamed that I would be a judge. Never really had an aspiration to want to be a lawyer. And wanted to try this court. And, but I hope, as a member of the next generation, which is what Don, you, and I, and Drew, and Foster, Don Howe Jr., Richard Sutton, Judge Mark Murphy, his little brother Paul. I regret Paul. I mean, Mark, you never, and Paul never got to see your daddy try a case. Like I did. I'm glad I'm enough on the case. And I wish you could have seen some of the battles that they had with my dad and my Uncle Jack. And, but I hope that as I stand here before you as a chief judge of this circuit, that you can go away from here with a realization that I hold and I cherish the legacy that's coming forward. And I'm always mindful of what it is that we have to live up to. And I hope that I make this point. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to participate in this ceremony. And I'm sorry if my voice is not clear, but as I look out here, I see a lot of the history of this county. And we have a great county. And I appreciate so much the fact that so many of you have appreciated the history of this county as you have, or this would be here today. And it is my hope that we'll be able to utilize this courthouse. And I would very much like to do that. I would like some of our younger people to sit in these jury seats and to maybe get a feel for just how important their heritage is
if Aunt Jane and Dad didn't tell you this. When I was a little boy, my sister would go sit in a wheelchair. I'd ride with him to Atlanta to see the Arthur. Had a fine old African-American citizen named Junior Lambert, who some of you might remember. With a dry mop gang, Dad would be holding down for him. And he would read me all the way to Atlanta. And I was fascinated, just as my father had pointed out to me. But I want to thank you on behalf of the members of my family for the efforts that really so many of you have made to preserve this. And I will close by saying I don't think this courthouse has seen its best day yet. So thank you again so much.
Y'all call him Judge, I don't call him.
Never called me anything but like that. Start calling.
One day, we came up there, Judge. Me and James and Mike was a little boy. We came with us. We came in that back door. Haralson still lived. He was back then Solicitor General. Now he's the district attorney. Me and Shane come in the door backward, right behind him about that time. Hal Hutchins did something, squall out there. Mike like to knock me down. Like we run all the way down the steps. I had to go find him, and that's Hal done there to scare him to death. but I want to say one more time, I appreciate you all coming here. I appreciate you honoring my brother. And Judge, I would say, in the vernacular of the baseball people, my and your batting average was about 500 apiece against each other.
Before we come to the point of the dedication that Judge Haralson Murphy will be leading, we just want to celebrate, to me, the bringing of the public library to this building, this community, was one of the greatest achievements that's happened in several decades. And I deeply appreciate those that have, Ms. Mary Gerald and Charles and the volunteers. I'd like for all of the volunteers for the library to please stand at this time. We deeply appreciate this. This is a real plus in our community. We're very thankful. The old clock here, you can't imagine what we've been through trying to keep that bugger ticking. It has really been a challenge, and Brother Charles Gerald here has helped us. First Charles. He's up, is he up there working on the clock? He's kept that clock ticking along with my brother Van McBrayer, who's assisting him, and Peggy has been so good to work with, and Mary Gerald. And, you know, we've had some tough times, and the Quivers have been our focus group. How many of the Quillers are here today? Would you please stand? Whenever I want to get something passed and I want to do a little politicking ahead of time, I'd come by and see them, and we'd get a consensus, and then when you talk about moving the thing forward on the floor, we could after I got those girls with me. And they've been a great asset to us here. We appreciate it. There's so many that have done so much, and we just appreciate you seeing them in the bulletin. We did overlook Commissioner Sanders. Can't imagine doing that, but it did. But he and his staff, Charlie Walker, they've been our fiscal agent for these grants, and they've been so patient with us, and they work with us, and we certainly commend them for all that they've done. So at this time, in this facility, we feel like the late James R. Murphy represents a segment of our society that are handicapped. In spite of their handicapped condition, they have achieved and done well. And we're thinking of the greater America and the many citizens that are going to need this elevator. And so we're real happy today for this achievement. And the money that was used to build this elevator is part of the appropriation that Speaker Tom Murphy and Senator Nathan Dean got 2 or 3 years ago. We've tried to spend the money wisely. We have come a long way with it. We've made the money go a long way, and we're very proud today. And Judge Haralson Murphy is coming to lead us in the program dedication this time.
Before we do the formal dedication, there are 2 or 3 things I need to say, if you'll bear with me. Senator Dean mentioned the cost of this courthouse. I can tell you a little more about it. The contract price to build this courthouse was $19,000. J.S.M. Davenport, my great-grandfather, Terrell's great-grandfather, also great-grandfather of a number of people out here. And the ordinary at that time was the chief financial officer of the county as well as the probate judge. Handled all the matters of probate wills, also set the tax rates and collected the taxes and spent the taxpayers' money. But bond issue for the courthouse was $19,000. That was the contract. The contractor went broke. Couldn't finish the courthouse. J.S.M. Davenport brought him on county warrant for $1,000. He finished the courthouse, and they threw J.S.M. Davenport out of office next election. Another great thing about being here today is that I can stand in the courtroom and look up and not see the sky. I'm not exaggerating that when we would hold court in this courtroom, there were places you could be and you could look up and you could tell without looking out the windows whether the sky was blue or gray. And I had a memorable occasion once of, we didn't have window panes everywhere. We had plywood in some windows and some windows that were open. I think Speaker Murphy was trying a case here that I was presiding in, and I don't remember who else was on it. A pigeon flew from one side of the courtroom to the other. And in the spring...
Dropped on you?
No, he didn't stop. Our circle. Some of the lawyers might have pointed too. But in the spring of the year, when things might get quiet while you're waiting on a witness to come, you could hear an egg roll or a pigeon laid an egg.
Something about the smoke and the heaters.
Yeah, and in the winters, the heaters would smoke, and when we first came here, they had practice in law. Not only did they have some propane heaters, they had an old coal stove. And they'd fill that coal stove, and if you had an important witness, you'd stand and examine the witness, and the bailiff didn't like your side of the case, he'd start throwing coal in the a couple of more anecdotes before we proceed with the formal dedication. Tom Murphy and I were in law school together. We took every course together. And we were engaged in a project. And I went out to the prefab barracks where Tom and his family were living. And Mike was a stinking little fella with a dirty diaper on night while we were trying to study. And he was obsessed with getting up on the sofa between us and sliding down right between us. He'd get to crawl back up and slide back down. I never dreamed he'd be a Superior Court judge. I hear you loud and clear. I started practicing law. I was on the Superior Court bench, and he would come by the house to get papers signed sometime. He didn't get them ready till the end of the day, and I'd already be home. He'd come by the house and he'd tell my wife, Jacqueline, and me, it was like a breath of fresh air when he would come by, and he'd tell us that they need to put a sign out in front of my office, dumbest lawyer in Georgia. So, that's a good memory that I wanted to pass. And one other thing. I told you Tom and I were in law school. We handled a case together in moot court. We never handled any cases together. We most of the time on opposite sides. But we have a case in, two cases we have together, plus moot court. Law school, and when we got through trying the case, moot court, Professor Green, very outstanding law school professor, told the class, said, now, Tom Murphy is the one here who knows how to make a speech, and he's made the best speech I've ever had presented in moot court. I enjoyed that speech a lot more than I enjoyed some of his others. It's very fitting that we do what we're doing today. There have been a lot of great lawyers and judges in this courtroom. And those of you who live in the county may not realize it. But this county, and I know it because I practice law a ton, like other lawyers know it because they practice law all over much of Georgia and into Alabama and other places along the side. So you get to know whether a bar is a strong bar or not. But this county has had the reputation, and the reputation was well earned, of having one of the strongest bars, that is the finest lawyers in the state of Georgia. And I'm not going to try to start naming all of them. There are a lot of them that many of you will remember. A lot of them you've never heard about that we're familiar with the culture of the bar. But it's particularly fitting that this place be dedicated, this courtroom, to the memory of James R. Murphy, along with the elevator shaft. Because when you consider all of the lawyers we've had, judges we've had, great public servants that we've had, the person who has accomplished the most in this courtroom is one who overcame his disabilities and with his disabilities managed to be an outstanding lawyer. So in my humble opinion, he has accomplished the most of any practicing lawyer we've had in this courthouse. So for those reasons, I think it's very fitting that we're taking the action that we are. And I want to commend the Historical Society for all you've done for this courthouse and for this community. I thank you as a former officer of the court here, and I thank you as a citizen of the county. If all of you will turn to the first page inside, down where Roman numeral 4 is, on dedication of the Historic Courtroom, addition of the elevator. And then if you drop down to members of the audience, which is underlined, and follow me in just a minute. Today, and this afternoon, this is a tribute and dedication to all the handicapped persons who contributed and continue to contribute to our community. And this is a special dedication to the late James R. Murphy, who in spite of severe handicaps served our community in significant ways. Now, if we go to the next paragraph and then repeat after me. We dedicate this historic courtroom.
We dedicate this historic courtroom.
And the new addition with the elevator.
And the new addition with the elevator.
All individuals. Who have made significant contributions to our community. In spite of significant physical handicaps. And especially, we dedicate these facilities in honor of. And in memory of. The late James R. Murphy. And to the glory of God. And service of humanity. Thank you.
together. I want to express our special appreciation to Buchanan Women's Club and Dr. Janice Wright for their work in preparing refreshments. I hope you will take advantage and take time while you're here to walk through the entire facility. And does anyone else has a word in season for us before we adjourn? If not, God bless you till we meet again.